Yeah, the Monday morning problem is I have all these big dreams, these big ideas, but what do I need to do? What's the right thing to do? The thing that works the best is to have a very clear, larger goal, right? This is like the first step.
How do you see AI disrupting coaching systems and maybe impacting your business?
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Drop the mic with Jason Hunt.
The Monday morning problem. The Monday morning problem is I have all these big dreams, these big ideas, but what do I need to do right this moment? What's the right thing to do? How does that translate into my immediate to-do list, my action? I mean, I know that there's about 175 things on the to-do list, but I'm not sure that I can just work through them in order and I'll, achieve what I actually want to do. And there's a lot of things on that list that I have to do, but it's not going to actually move the needle, or other people want me to do. I think that's what you're referring to with the Monday morning problem, is just the translating a really precise action that in fact has the pedigree, the heritage that's going to lead to the thing that we're actually afterwards, and not just putting out the things as they come to mind. Is that what you're having in mind when you
100%? Yeah. Well, where I'm going with that, Scott, is, for me, one of the things, for most people, they're going to do those things that they want to do, right? The things that they want to do first, not necessarily the things that they have to do or they should be doing or contribute to that greater goal, right? So, for example, I got a list here. There it is. There's my list. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 things on this list that I got to do. What does Scott say, or how should I prioritize this, Scott? What would you recommend?
The thing that works the best is to, number one, have a very clear, larger goal, right? This is like the first step. And honestly, it's something that you'd be surprised. I'm sure you have it in place, Jason, but you'd be surprised that there's very high performing leaders, and you still press them on the details of the goal. And it's a little vague. It's a little vague, right? So having that yearly goal, super concrete and measurable, objectively verifiable. And then broken down to the quarter, same thing, concrete, measurable, objectively verifiable, and down to the month, and then all the way down to the week. And so the way that you decide between those 13 things is, well, which one contributes to what I've set the monthly goal as? Because I know that the connections are all there for the month through the quarter of the year. So making the connection to that monthly goal is how I would recommend you sort out, and other people sort out, which of those 13 things get done, with extreme seriousness. Everything else is best effort.
So maybe an approach to this list of 13 things to do is throw an M beside the ones that are my monthly goal, A beside annual, and maybe D beside daily. And then out of those goals, prioritize the ones that would be the monthly goals first.
Yeah, well, the monthly should contribute to the quarter, which can contribute to the year. So you don't need to put an A there, because if it contributes to the monthly, you already know it contributes to the annual.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, tie the things that could push forward the monthly goal, and time block those for the week. And Jason, this is really good. Like, for people who are listening, seriously, time block your week, at least for those things, right? Like, I'm going to do. People are different. Not everybody lives and dies by their calendar, but people generally underutilize time blocking. Is it going to be a couple hours for the 2 or 3 things that you put them M by? Well, when are you going to do them based on how long you think it's going to take? Is it going to be Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, 9 to 10? Just get it on there. Even if it doesn't it's a wild and woolly world. Your calendar doesn't always work out, especially with appointments you make for yourself. They don't have the same, I had an appointment with you earlier. I just started. I showed up because there's somebody else. But when you have an appointment just with yourself, sometimes you let it slip. And that's not the end of the world, but drag it to a new place, right? Don't just let it go. Drag it. Okay, well, all right, I missed it. Something came up and I didn't do it Thursday morning, so now I'm going to try to do it Friday morning. And just don't give up just because you missed it that first time. Anyway, yeah, time blocking those monthlies will make a tremendous difference. Not perfection, but if we're going for perfection, we're screwed at the beginning because it can't be perfection.
100%. And you know what? It's interesting because those things that you talk about as monthly are really, when we're talking about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, those are the things that would sit in quadrant 2, right? Which is important, not urgent. Right. And that's kind of where you want to live, right? You want to be living more time there than anywhere else. So
you know what, Jason, it's okay if you don't live there, but just at least spend a little time there.
A little bit, right? Yeah. Right. Fires are going to happen. You got to put out fires, right? But you got to live there. Like I'll give you an example. Some of the things on my list here, I got to apply for some 2026 conferences to speaking at conferences.
Right.
That is definitely more of a quarterly or more a longer term play. It's important to do that. It's not urgent, right? Where I have something such as, optimize our Facebook ad campaigns for lead generation, that has to happen like that. That's a quadrant 1 type of task. Now that is a task that might take me 10 minutes, right? So whereas, finding 2026 events might take a couple hours. So should we be nailing off some of those simple things first to get some momentum or just to take them off the list?
I personally find that to be pretty gratifying. To get the, like you said, the momentum, the feeling of accomplishment going, doing a little self-talk, knock something off and say, like, good job, Scotty. It helps. It helps. It's hokey, but it gets the feeling of progress going. Progress is a really powerful motivator. And so it is important. I've had to learn this over the years with how we even just designed the HabitStack software. Sometimes it was just accountability is important, but it has to be, you can't be too stark. I used to do X's, too many X's, it was a downer psychologically. And I guess what I'm trying to say is just the psychology of these things really does matter, which I think is kind of what you're pressing on here. So you do kind of have to manage your energy and manage your emotions and set yourself up for success and to get the ball rolling internally the right direction. Do you experience that, Jason, that like kind of getting some quick wins makes a difference?
I find I to your point, I love just stroking a line through some of this crap on this list and just to go on. And if I see something is super easy and I can get it done quick, I'm going to give it a crack and get it off that list as much as possible. But I do find when I do that, there are these big glaring ones that I know I need to get done that I do need to throw into a calendar and actually allocate time to getting it done. And I think one of the hardest things with that is being disciplined with those time blocks on your calendar. That can sometimes be challenging, whether you're on a great sales call with somebody and you have this task that you have penciled in there, but this call is going really good and you want to extend it. That type of thing happens quite a bit. And next thing you know, the day gets away from you.
It does. And what I would say is just it's worth the process of doing it, even if you blow through it on occasion. Try not to, but stay in the ring. This is the thing. Like I think that too often people are like, you know what? I keep blowing through these things, so it's not working, and I'm gonna stop doing it.
I recently returned from speaking at a conference about AI and marketing, and my inbox went absolutely bonkers with people requesting my presentation slides. Now here's the thing. Instead of emailing slides to dozens of people, I decided to do something better. I launched Amplify Your Brand on School. It's where I'm sharing the AI tools that actually work, not the garbage everyone's hyping about. The exact processes our agency uses to save 15 plus hours every week. Real strategies that drive results. You'll get my slides from my presentations, weekly live business audits, and access everything we do at Merged Media. No fluff, no BS, just what works. If you want to learn more, go check out Amplify Your Brand on School. That's school, SKOOL.com/AYB. See you on the inside.
But the reality is you don't blow through it every single time. And if you don't, sure, you want to get better. But there's value in forcing yourself to at least have the chance to follow the time block because it's on your calendar, even if you're not perfect at it. Mm-hmm. There's a real kind of, we can really get ourselves in, well, it's kind of like the flip side of, I'm trying to diet. I've had a cookie, so I might as well have 10. It's kind of the flip side of the same fallacy, right? Like just because sometimes we blow through our commitments to ourselves, our time blocks that we made with ourselves, doesn't mean, I mean, frankly, even if you try to do better, but even if it only works 25% of the time, that adds up. Like that is not insignificant.
Yep. I think some people in the audience might be wondering, who's this Scott guy and why is he talking about productivity? So what's your obviously, you dropped HabitStack there a second ago, but maybe let's go backwards a bit and tell us, the origin story of what brought you and got you to HabitStack.
Yeah, my background originally, my first career was in software development, and I eventually realized that although I like computers, I like people slightly more, and that kind of sometimes that changes depending on the day. But I'm kind of like the split brain engineering type, but also people type person. And so, but because of that realization, I went into coaching and got all that training and started. But it made sense for me to work with tech-related entrepreneurs primarily. And of course, over the course of the experience, I couldn't help but also create some software along the way. And so HabitStack is a combination of my coaching services and a methodology specifically around strategy execution. So it's what I just described: the yearly goal, the quarterly goal, the monthly goal, the weekly goal, and then there's a set of habits around it that you build, and particularly as a team, as a leadership team, right? As if a leadership team is all doing this together, it becomes this very powerful way of being very serious about the things that you say are important.
So how are your clients right now using HabitStack on a daily basis? How would they go about using the platform?
Well, we have weekly meetings, and there's this, like I said, there's a set of habits that they execute on. One of them being to add a weekly goal that feeds up, like to do you just said, like put the M by the things, except you do it the other way around and review the monthly and then set the goal according to whatever that is whatever the monthly goal is, you set a weekly goal that pushes that forward. And then, then you time block in your calendar and then report back at the next weekly meeting in terms of how it went and what your plans are for the next week. And when a new month rolls over, obviously there's a little bit more planning. When a new quarter rolls over, there's more planning and more debriefing and reflection. But that's how they use it on a weekly basis. In the day-to-day, many of them will time block. Some people just keep it up all the time, right? They're just like referencing, what is my quadrant? I always get the quadrants mixed up. Is it quadrant 2 that's important and urgent? No, important, but not urgent.
It's important, not urgent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one you want to live in. You don't want to live in one too much, where everything's important, everything's urgent. And you want to delegate everything that is urgent, not important, like social media notifications and the like. And then you just want to stay the heck out of quadrant 4, right? Which is like binge watching Netflix,
one reflection that I have, if I could nitpick important versus urgent, Covey's great, obviously. Covey has been very influential and said a lot of great things. And I think important versus, well, actually, that's Eisenhower matrix too. Covey didn't invent it, but I don't know if you experience this, but I personally, and also I observe people who experience it, that important is actually a slippery concept because it's a little bit too hard to use in the real world. Because is it important to prepare for the tax audit that's tomorrow.
No, never important. Not for me, right? But it is for my business partner.
Yeah, it is for your business partner, right? Yeah, exactly. Or is it important if the servers are down? Is it important to get them back up? Yeah, I mean, you do use that language as important, but it's not; those aren't important on that quadrant. And so I feel like the language, I personally think that a better phrase is the urgent versus the transformative. This is what we're getting at. This is the heart of it. This is going to transform our business and open up possibilities that were not open to us before. So getting the service back up is not going to transform the business. Getting through this audit is not going to transform this business. So it's a little bit more of an easier litmus test, I think, to use a different word there.
I think, when we talk a lot about goals and goal setting, I'd love to get your take on, good goals versus bad goals. What's a good goal to create for yourself on a monthly basis? Could it be anything like, or does there need to be some substance behind it? Talk to me about that.
One way of thinking about it is whether or not it's a strategic goal or if it's just a kind of outcome goal. And so a lot of times, a mistake that a lot of times I'll ask people, well, what's the goal? And they say, well, 10 million in ARR. And of course, the challenge with that is that there's no strategic content whatsoever in that goal. There's no guidance to yourself or to the team about the what and the how, right? That's going to, there's 100 different ways that you could get to 10 million in ARR. So a much more strategic goal looks like projects. It looks like what strategic bets are you going to make that you think will lead to document the revenue goal is good for scoping the level of activity and checking your projects against whether or not they're credibly going to lead to that level of change that you're looking for. But they're not good goals in terms of actually guiding action. One of the things that leaders transition through this process of, like, in the early days when there's just a few people that they're leading and they can kind of be involved in everything. They talk to everybody every day, basically. And then eventually it tips over where they cannot do that anymore. And they bring in a management layer. They bring people who are, functional leaders or departmental leaders. And they have to start to lead lead leaders. And the mistake is, like a goal like 10 million ARR doesn't give those leaders the context and you haven't made any strategic choices for them to take action on and to be able to autonomously push forward their particular area. So that's one, just kind of like no strategic content is a good litmus test for whether or not it's a bad goal. I think another aspect of it is just wildly under specified goals, right? Where there's not enough detail to be able to say at the end of the quarter or the end of the year whether or not you succeeded or not. Like, you really have to get yourself and your team to poke holes. Like, well, if this happens, would we celebrate? What if this but not that? Would we celebrate? Right? Like, to really pressure test it so that we know what we're actually doing. Not partly because we do want to have that the enjoyment of that celebration, but also because what will come out of that process is you realize you had different things in mind. If there's more than one person involved in the executing that goal, people were not exactly aligned in terms of what the goal actually was. But oh, that's what you thought that we were going to do there. That's interesting. There's a really useful exercise there.
So in a small business, when you have some layers, you have the owners, you have management, you have employees. Is it good when we're talking about alignment? How important is it for the management team or the owners to set those goals for the employees underneath? Or is it important for everybody to come up with their own goals?
There's I don't know if you know this, Jason, but over the last 100 years, there has been about 1,000 different studies on goal setting and execution. It's like one of the most well-researched mechanisms for intervening in productivity and boosting productivity and driving certain behavior. And one of the very interesting findings out of all that research, or maybe lack of finding, is that there's not a big correlation between a goal's effectiveness. There's not a big correlation with whether or not it's effective, with whether or not it was set by the person who's executing it or it was set for them. It's actually okay to set goals and ask somebody else to execute them,
Mm-hmm.
as long as they understand it and they believe that it's a good goal and it's it's not impossible. Like there's some criteria for the goal to be useful, but it's not. This is something that I think people are often surprised by. It's okay to set goals for your team as long as you involve them in the they have to buy into it. But often, actually, it's a great relief for the team when there's clarity on what the goals are, because it's kind of like the CEO is kind of abdicating their responsibility to actually lead, because they're saying, well, you guys set the goals, and they're like, oh, well, it's like whack-a-mole. It's like, well, how about this one? No, that's not quite right. Well, how about this one? No, that's not quite right. Well, just, what's the goal? So that is one answer to your question, is that it's also not negative to include people necessarily to do it collaboratively, but it's not strictly required, as long as there's a feedback mechanism, as long as they have some say. They really don't agree, then it's not going to work.
It's interesting because even at our agency, we have goals that we speak, like me and my business partner have our own goals. But that goal is not translated. It's not as transparent with the team.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
I think you're making me start to think that that's a very important aspect to having a goal that helps it become more attainable when it translates throughout the organization, right? So people are aware what that goal is, and then obviously incentivizing them when we do hit that goal. You know what I mean? And I, to be honest, as I think about it, I don't know why we wouldn't be transparent about the goal. It's just kind of been our personal goal. Maybe it's because of, because a lot of the control is on us as owners to attain that goal. And it may require certain investments in the company to hit that goal.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why maybe, and I'm not just probably speaking for myself, probably a lot of founders out there have this type of a thing. It's like, well, if I'm too transparent about that goal with my company, it's going to require me to do this, this, and this. And there's a lot of risk with this, this, and this, right? So I guess it just becomes, how can we micro that goal into tiny little silos that matter to each individual employee?
A lot of times people are so eager to understand where the organization is going and why and what the big goal is. I hear that a lot. People are like, well, what is the vision? What are the, how does that translate into our goals for this year? Even if it's not an explicit kind of, if they're not enrolled in some kind of goal program, but just to know, and because in their mind, and maybe even to talk through, like you could talk with your employees, like, and what you do every day is related to this goal in this way. I mean, they can probably make the connections, but for them to know that you make the connections, and for you to tease it out, because probably there's ways that they're connected that are even more significant than they realize. So I think you're right. I think sharing the big picture goals and rallying everybody around them, it's less. The next question is like, oh, but should everybody have their own HabitStack pushing that same goal? And I think that's less clear. I don't know that. My experience, that has been less successful. It's not a given. People really drive this, right? But there's been kind of a turn away from every single person has to have an OKR. That is like people are not as sold on that as they used to be. And the reason is, I think that there's lots of reasons, but one is that it's okay, I think, for people to be frontline workers, or kind of to have a job that they do well and they just keep cranking on it and they get a lot of enjoyment from that. And they're not necessarily, and actually the company really, that's what they want them to do. They don't want to be necessarily distracted by like, and this discretionary extra thing, improvement project, or this like big picture goal to transform the company. You don't necessarily want everybody working on transforming the company all the time. That can actually be, because you also need people who are very
you need soldiers
gratified by just, running the current company.
Yeah. In the case where you want to be transparent with the goal, how would you get buy-in from employees? And maybe even HabitStack, there's a certain level of buy-in that people need to buy into the system. What are some ideas or tips around buy-in?
So buy-in is kind of goes down the organization, right? Buy-in for a founder or for the CEO is super easy, right? Like
100%. Sounds great. Sign me up.
By definition, they stand to gain the most from the goals being accomplished. One layer down from that, like the management team, the senior leadership team, they're generally totally bought in, easily bought in. Not quite to the same level as the founders, but definitely their compensation, their fulfillment, like they're hired to be builders. They want to be pushing, and they're kind of hardwired. That's why they're in the position that they are in. So there's usually not a buy-in at the leadership team level. And then after that, you'll have certain people that just love to build and are creative and strategic type thinkers, and they're tinkerers, and basically they're kind of just innately interested in working on strategic projects. And other people who just would prefer to work on stay in their, work on their thing. This is what they like what they do. And buy-in as you go down the organization. Well, let me turn it around. Let's make it super crisp. So when you say buy-in, what do you mean, Jason? What do you have in mind?
I'm thinking like you want to get the buy-in from employees to be on board with the company goal, with the goal that's set by the founders of the company, the goal that's set by managers. You got to get that buy-in from them to be like, yeah, I'm on board for that. That makes a lot of sense. Easy answer to that is just incentivize them, give them bonuses and pay raises. But is there anything outside of that, that they can, intuitively just continue to want to grow? You know what I mean? Having that goal in place that's incentive enough to be like, yeah, I want to get there. I want to get there as a company. I want to help I want to help this company achieve that goal, because it's going to be a great thing to achieve, and put it as a chevron on the shoulder, whatever it is, like that. That's the buy-in that I think that I think about. It's like, how do you get that buy-in for whatever goal you set? And the buy-in, if we were to say, hey, we want to be a $5 million a year agency. I guess the employees are thinking, well, okay, what do I need to do to help them contribute to that goal? And how am I going to benefit as a person as well? Right. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's, sort of as I talk it through with you, it's like I'm answering the question myself, but,
Yeah, I think you've touched on a couple of interesting things. One is that I think buy-in for a revenue goal is tough. What does an employee care? I mean, they kind of do. It's but it's like job security and opportunities, and you can kind of like make a cerebral case for why I should care about this, but I don't know, it's tough. I don't think you're going to get a lot of buy-in for that kind of stuff. Interesting projects. So people who are like things that are like, we're talking about building this new area of expertise, and I'm really interested in that area. You're going to get buy-in from that person because it's good for them and it's interesting to them.
Mm-hmm. Historically, like in the past, like I've been in companies where it's been like, okay, we hit our sales goal this month. If we hit it by the last day of the month, bottles on the company. Let's go to the club.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Now,
did that work for you?
Did it back? We were in our early 30s. It was exciting. I mean, it wasn't really what we wanted. We'd rather see that money go to our pocket, but rather than the bottles at the club. But, I think that there are certain things that can get people more involved. Like, for example, if we hit our goal, we're going to give everybody cubicles instead of a big open workspace. You know what I mean? There's things that can help better their work lives. I'm not sure if cubicle is a great example of that, but you know what I mean? Maybe there's certain incentives that people can get that can help out their personal life as well as their professional life. I think that's it. Really, I guess, how do you create that goal in a way where it's going to intrinsically motivate them to do a better job? Right. That's what we're asking. And I guess it comes down, it's always case by case, right? But I'm sure there are a couple of things that would really, get people's attention more than others. And I think it really does stem from something that can kind of, lean into more helping them personally and not just professionally.
Or, don't underestimate, like, if it helps them professionally, if in their career, that's very meaningful. They'll be totally excited about that. Another thing is, I would say, Jason, is recognition, right? Recognizing people in front of their peers, recounting the story of this great thing that they accomplished and the way they did, or the value that they embodied, or these kinds of things. Like, recognition is a very, very deep need that we all have, and so it's a very human thing to be motivated by that. And so, even if the very lofty goal, or the very kind of abstract, or the goal that doesn't resonate with their hearts, to make Jason $5 million. But, along the way, if there's sincere thank yous and recognitions and surprise. The other thing that goes a long way is if there are incentives. So if it's kind of like a deal incentive, that's one thing. But surprise things, bringing pizza in, or long weekend, or whatever, these things. Like, if you make it formulaic, then it just becomes part of the compensation package, and it's effective. Yeah. If it's a surprise, you get a lot of additional, emotional mileage out of that. So anyway, I would just not underestimate the value of recognition and sincere thanks as well.
I think just, even like you said, hit a goal, get a long weekend, extra long weekend off, something like that. Right. That's good. One thing I want to get to before we finish up today's conversation is talking about AI and automation and accountability. Okay. We're in an interesting moment, obviously, with AI, automating pretty much everything. But accountability and consistent execution are still human, right? So as you look into the future a bit, I don't want to go too far out, let's say 12 months, how do you see AI disrupting coaching systems and maybe impacting your business?
I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty bullish, because I think there are. I'll give you an example. So there's some of the things that you just talked about. We just talked about good goals and bad goals, that kind of stuff. AI is very good at rating, classifying, suggesting, here's a key result that would be a little more measurable, like that kind of stuff. AI is and will be quite good at helping people succeed or to visualize and to do a good job at just setting goals in the first place. And so that will free people up, like me and leadership teams that I talk to have higher level discussions about key strategic choices. So I think it has the potential just to elevate the conversation to it's not that inherently important of a human activity for me to bug Jason to write a better goal because the one he wrote is vague. That's not like that gratifying for me or for you. It's important, like it does need to happen. But if we can make it so that that's in place kind of more, with the help of AI, so that we can talk about the why more, that's a good exchange. I think that's a good direction to go. So hopefully, so anyway, that would be my answer. I think that it will free. Well, this is kind of what you want from technology generally, is to free humans up to do what humans are good at and let the machines do what machines are good at. AI blurs the line a little bit in terms of who's good at what, but
Well, I think it's also wrapping our heads around in terms of where we should deploy our time and energy, and where the energy can be, where we can save our energy, essentially, right? And I think that's what's happening now and that those are businesses that I would want to put stocks into, are those relationship-based businesses,
Right.
right? Physical events, you know,
Right.
stuff like that are going to be, they're not going to go anywhere unless we have another COVID, knock on wood, you know, they ain't going anywhere. So I think that's a key point, is letting the systems and AI automation do its thing, so you don't have to spend time typing at a keyboard and spending more time on maybe phone calls. Whoa, I said it, phone calls.
Yeah, I think if you think about a lot of our days are filled with things that are not innately fulfilling to do. Like a lot of knowledge work is tedious, and I mean, I don't want to diminish. There's real challenges, right? Like it's also very. I would imagine I'm not a designer, but it's very fulfilling for a designer to design something, and so if a certain segment of that work goes away because of AI, that we have these things to grapple with, certainly. But there's a lot of my day like that I'm happy to not have to do.
Yeah.
As long as we retain. What I don't want is for my AI to be talking to your AI, and we don't have any kind of human connection, and what are we're just batteries for the system at that. That's not the future that I'm hoping for. But
Yeah.
what I'm hoping for more is just that humans are freed up to do human stuff.
100%. We still have to solve some problems together. I mean, my AI will know what your AI likes to eat. So if we just tell my AI to go find us a restaurant for dinner, it's going to find the perfect place for us. But then what about the problem that we're trying to solve in the first place, which is creating that conversation and getting to that endpoint? We like the journey, right? There's a journey to all of this, right? There's a journey to get that destination. And I think a lot of us enjoy that journey, and we don't need AI to do it for us, right?
I think that's right. And I think convenience and ease is not the highest, most important thing for a fulfilling life. And so we have to guard against this. I mean, in some ways, the history of since the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution has been like, we can make this easier, and we can make this easier, and this easier, and it's a really, it's not the end of the world. I like my conveniences, but it's also we can't put that at the very center of our lives.
100%. I think even when self-driving cars come into full effect, there's still going to be people that want to drive. I mean, I could take a car to a destination. I still like to walk. I prefer to take a train instead of a plane. You know what I mean? There's always going to be, those type of people that are going to exist. It just might be a premium.
Yeah. I think it's important. Friction is a part of what makes life meaningful. Even if you don't like it in the middle, even if I don't like friction, but everything that's meaningful is hard, and so I'm not sure we want to make everything easy.
Love it. That's the mic drop right there. Scott, if our audience has any questions for you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, HabitStack.com. Like good habits and bad habits stack like a stack of papers. HabitStack.com. That's the best way to do it.
Awesome. And on socials?
Yeah, LinkedIn, same thing, HabitStack, or search for Scott Ward, and I should come up.
Awesome. Scott, thank you for your time.
Jason, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for your great questions, and have a great rest of the day.
Hey, thank you, podcast listener, for checking out that episode of Drop the Mic. If you liked that episode, I would love it if you went on over to your podcast platform and left us a 5-star review. And if you don't want to miss an upcoming episode of Drop the Mic, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Thanks again. See you soon.